You finish a morning run on an empty stomach and you stand there, hands on your knees, waiting for your heart to settle. But it doesn't settle. It hammers, not the normal thump of a hard effort, something heavier, something that pounds against your ribs like it's trying to get your attention. You shake it off. You tell yourself that's just what a good fasted workout feels like. But here's the thing. Your heart is not just along for the ride when you skip breakfast and train. It is not sitting there passively pumping while your body burns fat. Cardiac muscle has its own fuel preferences, its own oxygen demands, and its own breaking points. And when you exercise in a fasted state, every single one of those variables shifts in ways that most fitness advice completely ignores. The common story is simple. Train fasted, burn more fat, lose weight faster. Your heart, it'll be fine. It's a muscle. It adapts. That story is incomplete because the heart doesn't burn fuel the same way your legs do. It runs on a different mix. It needs more oxygen per unit of energy on that mix, and it responds to the stress hormones of fasted exercise with a sensitivity your biceps will never have. What most people experience as just a harder heartbeat is actually a cardiac system operating under a fundamentally different metabolic load. Today, we're following a single timeline, hour by hour from your last bite of food, through the overnight fast, into the morning workout, and through the recovery window after you stop. No diet ideology, no fitness tips, just the raw physiology of what your heart muscle cells are doing at each stage. By the end, you'll understand exactly when fasted exercise strengthens the heart and exactly when it starts pushing toward damage. The dividing line between those two outcomes is sharper than you think. Let's start the clock. Your last meal hits the table around 8 p.m. Your dinner lands around 8 p.m. A plate of food, nothing special. But the moment those nutrients hit your bloodstream, insulin rises and your heart gets a mixed fuel delivery. It pulls in some glucose, some fatty acids, a little of everything. Think of it like a hybrid engine running on whatever is cheapest and most available. This is the fed state. Your heart is comfortable here, but it doesn't last. By midnight, roughly 4 hours in, insulin is falling. Glucagon, the hormone that opposes insulin, starts climbing, and your heart begins quietly adjusting. It dials down glucose intake and ramps up fatty acid burning. By the time you've been asleep for a few hours, your heart is pulling nearly 70% of its energy from fat. Deep inside each cardiac muscle cell, a transport gate called CPT1 widens to shuttle more fatty acids into the mitochondria, the tiny power plants that generate energy. Your liver's glycogen stores, the backup battery of quick sugar your body keeps on hand, start running low around 6 to 8 hours post-meal. Free fatty acids in your blood climb to 2 to 3 times their post-dinner levels. And here's the part most people miss. Your heart doesn't wait for you to feel hungry. It switches fuel sources hours before your stomach growls. By midnight, metabolically speaking, your heart is already fasting. You just don't know it yet. Meanwhile, your resting heart rate drops 5 to 10 beats per minute overnight. Your nervous system shifts toward its calm and recover mode. Everything seems peaceful, but underneath that calm, the fuel mix is changing, and that change sets the stage for everything that follows. Around 5 or 6 a.m., while you're still asleep, your brain fires a hormonal alarm clock. Cortisol surges. This is the cortisol awakening response, a built-in jolt that primes your body to wake up and move. It tightens your blood vessels. It tells your liver to dump glucose into the bloodstream. It raises your baseline alertness. In a fed person, this surge is manageable. The system absorbs it. But in a fasted body, the surge lands on top of an already shifted landscape. Your norepinephrine levels, one of the key stress hormones that speeds up your heart and constricts your blood vessels, are already running 20 to 30% higher than they would be if you'd eaten. Your blood itself is thicker. After 8 hours of breathing without drinking, you've lost fluid. Your blood's concentration of red cells climbs 5 to 8%. Thicker blood moves slower. It clots easier, and your heart has to push harder to move it. Here's a number that should stay with you. Most heart attacks and sudden cardiac deaths cluster between 6 a.m. and noon. That morning window is the single most dangerous stretch for your heart in any 24-hour cycle. Fasting doesn't create that window, but it deepens it. It extends it. The electrolyte balance shifts too. Potassium and magnesium, two minerals your heart's electrical system depends on to keep its rhythm steady, drift slightly lower in the fasted state. That drift can subtly stretch the QT interval, which is the time it takes your heart to electrically reset between beats. A longer QT interval means a slightly wider opening for the rhythm to stumble. None of this means disaster on its own, but stack it up. Low fuel reserves, elevated stress hormones, thicker blood, slightly stretched electrical timing. This is the body you're about to take for a run. And now you lace up your shoes. Your feet hit the pavement, and within seconds, everything accelerates. Your heart rate doubles, then triples. Cardiac output, the total volume of blood your heart pumps per minute, jumps 4 to 6 times above resting levels. Your heart is now working harder than at any other point in the day, and it's doing it on a fuel mix that costs more oxygen. This is the critical detail. Burning fatty acids for energy requires about 12% more oxygen per unit of energy than burning glucose. The chemistry is straightforward. Fat molecules are bigger. Breaking them down involves more steps. Each step consumes oxygen, so your fasted heart is being asked to massively increase its output while running on a fuel that is less oxygen efficient. Like asking a truck to tow a heavy load uphill while burning a fuel that gives fewer miles per gallon. Your heart compensates. It beats faster. It squeezes harder. Your blood pressure climbs. The rate pressure product, which is heart rate multiplied by systolic blood pressure and is one of the best measures of how hard your heart is working, runs measurably higher in fasted exercisers than in fed exercisers doing the exact same workout. And the stress hormones amplify further. Fasted exercise drives catecholamine output 15 to 25% higher than the same exercise done after eating. Your heart is essentially bathing in adrenaline, but here's what makes this genuinely unsettling. Your brain doesn't register most of this. Your perceived effort, how hard the workout feels to you, systematically underestimates the actual workload on your heart. Your legs feel fine. Your breathing feels manageable. Meanwhile, your cardiac oxygen demand is elevated beyond what your effort level would suggest. The dashboard says cruise. The engine is redlining. So far, we've been tracking a single session, one fasted morning run. But what happens when you do this day after day, week after week? The body adapts, and this is where the biology splits in two directions. In one direction, something genuinely protective happens. Fasting activates a molecular switch called AMPK inside your heart cells. AMPK does something remarkable. It triggers autophagy, which is your cell's built-in cleanup crew. Damaged mitochondria get tagged and recycled. Misfolded proteins get cleared out. Think of it like a deep clean for the engine room. At the same time, AMPK signals your cells to build new, fresh mitochondria. More mitochondria means more power plants, more energy capacity, a stronger heart. This is real, Moderate fasted exercise, the kind where you stay around 60 to 70% of your max heart rate and can still hold a conversation, trends consistently toward this protective pattern. But in the other direction, something darker happens. When you repeatedly push past 85% of your max heart rate in a fasted state, the stress response overwhelms the repair response. Those elevated catecholamines stop being a temporary signal and start becoming a chronic assault. The heart muscle develops tiny patches of scar tissue called microfocal fibrosis. Cardiac MRI studies find these patches in 12 to 15% of veteran endurance athletes. After hard-fasted sessions, your blood shows elevated troponin, a protein that leaks from stressed or damaged heart cells. In a healthy person, those levels come back down within a day or three, but repeated spikes, session after session, may stack up into cumulative damage. The same AMPK switch that cleans your heart cells at moderate intensity gets overridden at high intensity. The cleanup crew can't keep up with the damage. The repair system that was supposed to protect you becomes the thing that scars you. This is not a simple good or bad story. It is a dose story. The dose is the dividing line, and most people never think about it. You finish the workout, you stop running, and you assume the hard part is over. It's not. The most vulnerable window for your fasted heart is not during the exercise. It's the 30 to 60 minutes after. Your heart needs to slow down. It needs to shift back from emergency mode into recovery mode. That shift depends on your parasympathetic nervous system, the calm down branch, reasserting control. But in a fasted state, that handoff is delayed. Your body is still catabolic, still running high cortisol, still low on insulin. The sympathetic system, the fight or flight branch, holds the steering wheel longer than it should. Heart rate recovery, the speed at which your pulse drops in the first minute after you stop exercising, is one of the most reliable predictors of long-term cardiac health. Fasted exercise slows that recovery measurably. Your heart sits in a rhythm that's electrically unstable for longer. Blood pressure drops more sharply because your circulating blood volume is already low from overnight dehydration. And the heart's own fuel stores take longer to refill because there's no incoming glucose to restock them. Then comes the first meal. And even that creates a small jolt. The sudden insulin spike after a fasted workout abruptly switches the heart's fuel source again, yanking it from fat burning back to a mixed fuel state. One more metabolic transition on top of a heart that's already been through a full stress cycle without a break. So here's where you stand. You came into this thinking fasted exercise was a fat-burning question. Now you know it's a cardiac fuel question. Your skeletal muscles can grind through a fasted workout on whatever scraps are available. Your heart doesn't have that luxury. It has specific oxygen costs, specific fuel demands, and a specific electrical rhythm that all shift when you strip away food and pile on exertion. The dividing line is intensity. Moderate fasted exercise, zone 2, the pace where you can still hold a conversation, trends protective. That's the sweet spot where AMPK activates, autophagy cleans house, and new mitochondria get built inside the heart muscle. You are strengthening the engine, but push past 85% of your max heart rate repeatedly in a fasted state without adequate water, without electrolytes, and the math flips. The stress response overwhelms the repair response. Catecholamines stop being a signal and start becoming an assault. Scar tissue accumulates in patches so small you'll never feel them until they matter. If you train fasted, keep intensity moderate. Hydrate before you start, not just after. Get electrolytes in, especially potassium and magnesium. And pay attention to recovery. That 30 to 60-minute window after you stop is when your heart is most exposed. Don't ignore it. Your first meal back isn't just about muscle recovery. It's about giving your heart the fuel to complete its own repair cycle. The heart doesn't care about your fitness philosophy. It doesn't care whether fasted training is trending or whether your favorite athlete swears by it. It cares about oxygen supply, fuel availability, and electrical stability. That pounding in your chest after a fasted run, that heavy hammering that feels different from a normal workout. Now you know what it is. Higher catecholamines, greater oxygen debt, delayed recovery. Not danger, but not nothing either. It's your heart telling you exactly what it's been through. The only question is whether you're listening.